Well, it's time for the first review of 2026. Let's talk about Primate. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC's Movies, where you can see all kind of movie and TV show talk with me, JC, especially superhero, comedy, and horror. So if those genres are up your alley, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Come chat some movies with me. And while you're in here, help me out by hitting that like button. Give this video a thumbs up. Helps out a ton with that YouTube algorithm. Helps us find more movie fans like you and me. And with that out of the way, we're going to get ready to dive into a spoiler review of Primate. Yes, I said spoiler review. Spoilers abound here moving forward. But before I dive in on the spoilers, do want to say you can check out some non-spoiler thoughts on my YouTube short that I put up with my out-of-theater reaction yesterday once I've seen the movie. And, of course, right here, I'll just tell you that I did enjoy it. I would recommend checking it out. And just to be brief before we dive into spoilers, awesome practical effects with the monkey in this movie. Really cool what they did with the character of Ben, the monkey right there that is, the attacker in this animal attack film, right? Really good gore. If you're into Carnage Candy, you're going to like it. And I think, horror fans, I think you're going to find this one solid enough. I mean, what I'm saying? It's not nothing that's going to blow you away story-wise, but, hey, we don't really need that in this type of movie. We need Carnage Candy. We need a body count. We need, a premise. And let's ride with it, right? And I think we get all of that here. So check it out if you're a fan of horror. And with that out of the way, let's get ready to dive into some spoilers for Primate. And of course, I will give my rating at the end here as we get through spoilers. But took some notes here in the theater, which I was able to do because I was the only person in the screening I was in. Mainly because the theater they were showing this in on the matinee I went to, the auditorium was having an issue. They had to keep the house lights on. I'm like, yeah, screw it. I want to see this. I'm watching it. And honestly, it didn't bother me as bad as I thought it would with the house lights on. I don't think it deterred my experience or anything like that. But starting through here, and I'm going to do this review a little bit different. I think in 2026, versus how we used to do them where we break it down pros, cons, neither here nor there. I think I'm going to more or less just try and remember the plot as much as I can. And then if something's a pro, I'll highlight it as a pro for me. If something's a con, I'll highlight it as a con for me instead of just going through it list by list. Try and make it feel like a little bit more of an organic conversation here in 2026 for these spoiler reviews. So let's get into it here. The movie starts off and it shows, on the screen, the definition of hydrophobia, which is, basically a fear of water. It talks about for the species that Ben is in the movie, and if they get this hydrophobia condition and it's not cured within 48 hours or treated within 48 hours rather, then there is no cure and they kind of pretty much go insane. So we're like, okay, that's probably what's going to happen in this movie, right? That's what you would expect. But I got some questions about that because it's like they also throw something else in the middle of the movie and they never really give us an answer. I don't know if that was on purpose. One of the two is supposed to be a misdirect, but we'll talk about it as we go through. That would kind of be, I guess, more of a connish thing for me, just because it's like, why give me this definition at the beginning if this isn't what it is? And then you plant some other seeds throughout the movie. I don't know. But anyways, so that's what they start off telling you about hydrophobia. My first con that I had here was that we get a gas station sushi joke in the first, cold open in the movie. I'm like, really? A gas station sushi joke? How many times have we seen that in every sitcom ever created? But quickly redeem yourself. Come along and totally redeem yourself right after that, because then in the cold open, we get the same character that said that line trying to give the monkey a shot. And all of a sudden, the monkey looks like he's going to take this teddy bear from him and instead grabs him and peels his skin on his damn face off. What an opening kill in the cold open. Pro right off the bat. So, the cold open throws you into it with some quick action, some quick Carnage Candy, some good gore right there off the bat. And you're like, okay, I'm in. And so then after the title drop, we see 36 hours earlier. So we're kind of flashing back here to the main plot when we get into this thing here at the beginning, where we meet Lucy, who is our main character throughout this story. Her father is a deaf writer, writes books, looking to turn a book into a movie, looking to be optioned there into a screenplay. He's got to go to a meeting and leave town, kind of kickstarting this premise with Lucy and some of her friends that she's coming back with from college, hanging out there at the house by themselves. Typical, almost slasher type setting, right? A house party type deal. Lucy coming home, hasn't been there in forever. Her sister Erin was mad about it because she hadn't been there in forever. So that's kind of what we learn here. A little bit of exposition stuff throughout the first little bit, which is one of the cons I got to hit. Is it seems like we get that awesome kill in the cold open, awesome action there, and then it slows down for a good bit of the movie. I'd say till almost the middle of the second act. I think in my notes I even wrote, where are we, like the middle of this movie and nothing else has happened yet. And then I do got to say, once it gets going, it really picks up and gets moving. But for meeting our main character and giving you that kind of exposition there that the opening of the movie gives us, talked about Lucy's sister Erin, and when Lucy goes and sees her, that's when we are first introduced to Ben, because we see Lucy say, "Oh, who am I going to give this teddy bear to?" or whatever, and then the monkey pops out from under Erin's bed, grabs the teddy bear, and we see Erin toying with this iPad thing that has like buttons where you can speak, and then come to find out that is for the monkey Ben. Their mother was a professor of some kind that majored in like linguistics and worked with the chimpanzees, getting them to talk. So he kind of communicates with this iPad thing. It has their names on it. It says Ben, Lucy, Erin, and stuff like that. So he can kind of communicate a little bit here. So we get a little bit of into the character of Ben, which I didn't know. I went into this movie kind of blind on purpose. I thought it would be a good way to go into it. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be, a crazy monkey breaks out of a zoo or something. And then he's on like a slasher tear. But no, instead it's a monkey that's actually like a part of this family. So I think that kind of adds to things a little bit because it gives it that little emotional twist to it too, to where you almost feel bad for this monkey once this starts happening, because they kind of showcase him as a member of the family. The main character even, states that early on. So I think that adds to this movie a little bit more so than if it would have just been a straight, slasher that you're not tied to, this just crazy monkey running around. But no, this monkey Ben is actually a part of their family. And speaking of their family, as I mentioned, their mom, had been, and that's probably why they're really emotionally tied to him, because we find out that their mom had just died a year ago prior to, when the events of this are taking place. But anyways, we move on to Lucy's friend sitting by the pool, her friend Anna there sitting by the pool, and all of a sudden Ben pops up. And then as soon as you see that, I'm thinking, oh no, that hydrophobia thing that they were talking about in the opening. And you see him kind of stare at the water, and you see him get shook and maybe start to freak out. And he goes to grab Anna's hand, because we've already seen him do a handshaking gesture earlier and do that with her. And this time, he starts squeezing her hand really hard, and you're like, oh shit, he's losing it already with this hydrophobia. Which in my notes, I guess it would kind of be neither here nor there at this section, because it's like, had he never seen that water before? This is, where he lives. Like, it's like he probably sees that water all the time. Why is he freaking out? But anyways, the dad, who hadn't left yet for his trip, comes down, blows this sort of dog whistle type deal, and it causes him to calm down. And then he explains via sign language to Anna that, something about the water can make him go crazy or whatever. And so then he goes, puts Ben in his enclosure that they have there at the house. And when he does, he finds a mongoose in there, and he finds a bite mark, a wound, we'll say, on Ben. And so then at that point, you're like, okay, that's strange. Why are they throwing this in? Because then, later on, next scene or so, they start to throw in, could it be rabies from this mongoose, which is, I'm just like, okay, is it the rabies? Is it the hydrophobia? I don't know. Does it matter? Not really. But that's when he calls the doctor or whoever, take cares of Ben, and says, hey, he's got this wound. Can you come help him out? And that's when we get to the scene, which was in the cold open, with the guy coming in with the shot to try and help him feel better. And of course, we know about the face peeling incident that happens from there. And I would say from then on, once you get to the point where you're caught back up to, where the cold open had us at, that's when the movie kind of picks up and finally the action gets going, because you get Lucy's other friend, Kate, coming down in the middle of the night and finds Ben in the kitchen acting strange, calls Lucy down like, hey, something's wrong with Ben. And then he disappears. They can't find him. When they do find him, he's down by the pool again with the other people. And the man, what was his name? I think his name was like Nick, one of the friend that came with him, the male friend. And he's, trying to get a rope around his neck because he sees him freaking out. And then they finally do, once Lucy goes and puts the rope around him. So they kind of tie him up a little bit. But he chews through the rope, bites Lucy's sister Erin on the leg. And so then you're like, oh, that's going to be an issue throughout this whole movie. And then you're thinking, with the rabies thing, is that going to be, she going to be infected? Plot, spoiler alert, she's not. So maybe it wasn't rabies, maybe it was the hydrophobia. But nonetheless, at this point, they all make the decision, let's get into the water. Chimps are scared of the water. Chimps can't swim. And so they all get into the water. And from then on, for the majority of the remainder of the movie, that's where the main characters are at. They're kind of trapped here, imprisoned in this water where they can't move and get out because they're scared of the chimpanzee attacking them. And this is where things really pick up, though, because they try and find different ways to either attack him or to find ways to escape, to get to a cell phone, to get to car keys, all kinds of things like that. which the first kind of kill we get of the friend group comes from that, because all of a sudden the pool is on a ledge. They're like built into an island. So, you're going over, if you go over the side of the pool, the ledge of the pool, it's rocky terrain, it's a mountain, it's a, 200-foot drop or something crazy like that, right? And so Ben has come around and is kind of watching them from that ledge side, and the male friend notices this and is like, I'm going to try and push him off. Swims over, runs out, tries to attack him, flips him off, and you're like, oh, he did it. He flipped him off. He flipped him off the ledge. The monkey it's over. What's the rest of this movie going to be? Then all of a sudden you realize, oh no, he's hanging by one arm, swings back up, grabs the guy, tosses him over, and that's when you get one of the first gnarly kills, because we see him fall straight down onto the top of his head onto some rocks, and you're like, okay, this is going to be the carnage candy. The gore is going to be here on most of these kills, which is, one of the biggest pros for this movie, in my opinion. And so from there, once they finally, one of the sequences where they finally get out of the water and try and run, we get one of my biggest pros of the movie, because we get essentially a Halloween Easter egg here, in my opinion, because they end up having to hide in a closet in the living room, and they're hiding behind the clothes in the closet in the living room while he's tearing through it. Very OG Halloween-esque when, he's coming at Laurie in the closet. So I was like, that's a pro. That's pro for this movie for sure. And speaking of classics, the score is another pro for this movie, because it's not long after that scene, once he finally gets his hands on, Lucy, the first time he's trying to attack her, which is, the main character, someone that he knows. And we get this score that kicks in that is very, 80s slash 70s, 80s slasher-esque, synth almost sounding, just awesome score that kicks in that would start to play during some of the tense moments in this movie from there on out. And I was like, oh, that's badass. Love that. Huge pro with the score. From there, like I said, you get some gnarly kills. Probably the most gnarly one is when he catches Lucy's friend Kate, who is, her best friend. They got these necklaces that are like a half heart connecting or whatever, and she has to watch him beat her with a rock in the face right there in front of him, and she can't do anything about it. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. And then the monkey's just kind of laughing about it. You're like, oh, this monkey's straight lost. Ben is not Ben anymore. I think that's something even Lucy says here in a line of dialogue. And then, moving through, their next attempt to try and get Ben out was to put the rope back around his neck they had earlier and try and drag him into the pool. Unsuccessfully able to do that. Later on, we see two guys that they had met on the plane. We mentioned the flight there back from college that they had called earlier in the night. They finally show up late into the morning. And as soon as these two drunk guys show up, immediately in my notes, I'm like, I guess it's neither here nor there. But I'm like, well, these two guys aren't clearly cannon fodder. They're not just here to just add to the body count or anything, right? That's not blatantly obvious. So you knew what was coming for them. But despite, kind of knowing that's coming, the way they executed it, I think, was a nice payoff, at least on one of the two. It was, I feel like I've said this multiple times, but this was a pretty gnarly, death sequence as well when we get there, because the guy's in the bed and sees the monkey come up, and he tries to, be friendly with him and greet him and stuff, and even tries to give him his keys, which comes into play later on, which I think was a nice payoff. But then Ben sticks his hands in the guy's bottom mouth and just rips his jaw clean off, and I was like, holy shit. And they had just the prosthetic fake jaw there that he had, and he was carrying around after that, and then throws at the other guy. And so I'm like, damn, that's pretty sick. So obviously he disposes of those two guys there, like I said, the body count guys, as I'll call them, right? But we do get the twist then that they're able to, the two girls that are left there, of course, Lucy and her other friend Anna, are able to kind of try and run while he's distracted there. And when they do, Anna makes a beeline for a phone and for the set of keys that she thinks is to, her car. And so she grabs those two, runs out the door, and you see her get in the car. You're like, oh, she's going to get away. Gets in the car, goes to stick the keys in the ignition. Doesn't fit. She has grabbed her keys, but she is in the car of those other guys who had the same vehicle as her, same color, same model at least. And oh man, that's a pretty good twist, because then the thing that we remember is that that Ben has the keys to that vehicle. So he comes outside, she's trying to call the police. He has the key fob unlocking the doors. She's trying to lock it. She keeps locking the door back as he unlocks it. And then he gets even smarter, opens the hatch, comes in through the back. And at that point, it's all over for this friend as well. And, the only people left now are Lucy and her sister. What's going to happen? Well, the dad returns because why? They don't have the phones. Lucy hasn't been answering his call, so he's worried. So he comes back, shows back up at the house, obviously realizes, sees the other cars, sees the place trash, sees pizza and beer, and goes, he's eating a slice of pizza actually. And remember, the key here is that he's deaf. So at this point, Ben's back in the house trying to attack Lucy and Aaron, and he doesn't hear any of it. So they're trying to fight him off, and he doesn't even realize it because he's deaf and can't hear it. But then eventually, when he does discover it, he comes in with that whistle, which causes Ben to stop momentarily. And then him and Ben kind of battle it out. Then he's banging the dad's head on the ground. Lucy and them stop him. And then they go back to fighting again. This time the dad gets a wine bottle that's nearby. Just as he's about to, rip out the jaw again, hits Ben and then stabs him in the heart with the wine bottle for kind of the finale there. Of course, he had to come back for one more scare. Tries to, push him off the ledge there because they are on the second floor of the house. And instead, Lucy pushes her friends out of the way and lets him take her, but her dad catches her. Ben falls and is impaled by a chair down there by the pool where they were originally trapped. And that's your movie there, which I think overall, probably for me, more pros than cons, a few neither here nor theirs. But overall, like I said, I actually enjoyed this, had a good time. As I mentioned in my short out of theater reaction for it, some of the bigger pluses were the shorter runtime. I love a 90-minute movie. I love the practical effects. And I think if you're giving me a horror movie, I can be okay if the story's just meh, because there's not a ton of story here. It's just, she's coming back from college. They're in this house. Her parents are gone. It's a house party. This monkey goes crazy either by rabies or hydrophobia, which is never made clear. And chaos ensues. And for a horror movie, I can get down with that. If you got a good body count, you got good gore, you got good carnage candy, you got practical effects, which they did for a good portion of this movie. My only downsides are kind of the dead part in the, about first, 40 minutes or so, where not a lot happens outside that cold open. And then the other thing just being, why give me two different things? Why make, either tell me it's hydrophobia at the beginning and let that play out, or tell me it's rabies at the middle and then tell me which one it is at the end. If you don't tell me which one, I don't know, trying to be ambiguous maybe wasn't my favorite part of it. Because of some of those little cons there, I think it drops down my score a little bit, but I still would recommend this. Still think this would probably be a good time at the movie if you're a horror fan. And for my rating here for my first review of 2026, we're going to go with a 7.5 for Primate here. In January, more 2026 reviews coming, guys. Can't wait to talk more movies with you all. If you guys like horror movies like this one, you like comedy, you like superhero, be sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button before you head out. And most importantly, let's talk about it. Throw your thoughts in the comments here. If you had a chance to check out Primate, did you like it? What else are you looking forward to in 2026? Anything you got there, drop it in the comment section. Always appreciate those interactions as they help me to continue to grow the channel here on JC's Movies. Having said that, I appreciate you tuning into this one, and I will catch you on the next one.